Katie Rose had always known she'd wanted to adopt. When she finally did choose to sign up to be a foster parent and got her MAP training, her first placement was right around the corner. 3 brothers entered her life, and she gave them all the love she had. But she quickly discovered that love wasn't enough for them. These boys had been through severe abuse and neglect, and even though she was committed and adopted them, caring for them was an intense task. Katie Rose felt very alone and knew she felt called to support other parents in her position. Find out more about Katie Rose and her mission this time on Adoption Uncovered. Well, hello, and I'd love it if you would tell me who you are and a little bit about your adoption story, how you're connected to adoption.
Hi, well, I'm Katie Rose, and I have always wanted to adopt since I was a little girl. I basically tell the story the same way every time. You're on the playground playing house with your friends in like elementary school, and everyone's like, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have 2 kids, I'm gonna adopt 2 kids. I felt like every little girl said it, and like I knew I meant it. Like I knew that was how I wanted to create a family. And adoption as I got older turned into, you know, looking like fostering and adoption. Like I was, in my head, I was going to be that person who always had a house full of kids, and some would be foster kids, and some would turn into adoption, and some wouldn't, and some would be reunified, and I'd foster 400 dogs too, and some we'd adopt, and like I was just gonna have this house just filled with dogs and kids. Like that was my dream. And so one night, I don't, I guess I was sitting there and I was like, I don't even know what I'm waiting for, right? Like what day, what month, what year is going to be the time where I say, okay, this is the smart time to pull the trigger, right? Uh and so it was had to be 2011 or something like that, 2011. And I just said, well, this is done. Like there's not almost, I guess, like as a couple would be like, when is the right time to, get pregnant? When is the right time to have a baby? Like there's no right time, nothing is ever perfect in your life. So let me just do it. And so I Googled foster care agencies, and I mean, it was like 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, on like, I think a Saturday night, like no less, right? And I just I went down the list and I called a bunch of places and I left a bunch of voicemails. And to my shock and awe, someone called me back on Sunday. And I was very surprised by that because I was expecting a call on Monday, if anyone called back at all. And she and I spoke, and she got me signed up like almost immediately for their MAP classes, their foster care classes. And they were, I think, every Saturday or something like that for 6 months or so. I don't really remember. It goes back so far, but I went through the training for basic foster care. I went through the home study and all that wonderful stuff that is the 4,000 pieces of paperwork to fill out, the answering of the most personal detailed questions to a complete stranger you've ever answered in your life. And I, did it all happily. Like I was just so excited. And since I was doing it on my own, and this, I was just starting out, and I had every intention of doing this for ever, like fostering. And, like I said, if, if any of them happen to end in adoption, wonderful. I figured I'd start my first one, like most people, like every foster parent says, like one child from 0 to 5, and I'll be great. Like that's how I'll start. And anyone who's actually been through it knows that's not ever how it works. I got the phone call, and it was like 11 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. And they said, we have a placement that we think would be great for you. And, they sell everything to the top. And it's 3 kids, a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And you have 30 seconds to decide. And I went, like, what? And I took my 30 seconds and I took a few deep breaths and I said yes. Gosh, it was 7 or 8 o'clock at night by the time they got to me. They got out of the car and my heart just skipped a beat. Like I saw them and I was instantly in love. I just knew that these babies needed someone to make them feel as safe in that moment as I possibly could, because I really did try to put myself in their shoes and how terrifying it must be to be taken and said, this is your home now. This is, you live with this stranger. And, like, I mean, like, how's like traumatic. And so that's how my journey started. And that's basically how my journey ended, because my kids were not a basic case. They were severely abused and neglected. So they came and they had severe behaviors, complex trauma, reactive attachment disorder, intimate and explosive disorder, conduct disorder. I mean, like bipolar, like they ran the gamut. And it was hard. It was scary. It was nothing I imagined, nor was it anything that was described as even a possibility in my math classes. I do know without a doubt that most people would have said, I can't keep this placement. You'll have to find them another home. And if they didn't say that, then you narrow it down a little bit, and then most people would have said, no, I'm not adopted, right? This is just, it's too much. But when it became clear that they were going to be TPR'd, termination of parental rights, for anybody who listens to your podcast and doesn't know what that means, when it became clear that they were going to be TPR'd and I was offered the opportunity to adopt, I didn't hesitate. I also wasn't told the truth, but I didn't hesitate. It was actually, I mean, I had, the social workers telling me that love was going to fix them. And if I signed the papers, all the behaviors would go away, because they knew they had a forever home, and as if that fixed anything. And I was so naive through so much of it. I think back to how much I've learned in, gosh, 11, 12 years now, and that most of that learning has really been only in the last 10, because beforehand you're just so naive, and you believe basically what the professionals are telling you, and you do what they say, and well, they know better, right? This is what they do for a living. So I was just kind of clueless. My kids that I had the honor of adopting, that they needed my complete focus, and they got it.
After all that, it sounds like you've decided other people need the help you didn't get. Is that true?
Oh, definitely. I made that decision. We're coming up on 6 years now since I founded the nonprofit organization Attached Families. And that came from the social worker, and even the DSS, hired counselors, um, telling me over and over again that all they need is to feel love and safe, which translated to I'm failing. So I'm crying because, in my room in the corner alone at night, because obviously I'm not making them feel loved and safe if this is continuing. And um, these weren't, just, defiant behaviors or, testing behaviors, which is, kind of what I feel a lot of people are like sold, like that's the bill they get sold, like, yeah, they're going to test you. And I do believe that, yeah, all children are going to test, but these were homicidal behaviors. These were very violent behaviors, um that I was dealing with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a decade. I mean, like $300,000 in debt trying to get them healing. I've flown them all over the country. I've tried, every type of therapy that exists. And I just say that because, like I just don't want. I want it to be known, like, I'm not just crying in my bedroom because, a kid is acting like a kid, and I'm a bad mom, which happens too, and that's okay.
Mhm.
but I'm going like, wow, like he's trying to kill his brother because I'm not loving them enough. I'm not making them feel safe. Like he poisoned my drink and tried to stab me because I'm not loving them enough. I'm not making them feel safe. He threw a vase at my head from the loft, like over above, where, because I'm not loving them enough and I'm not making them feel safe. And so I was in my room crying one night, feeling like this utter failure. And then, I had this, like, I was like, I can't possibly be the only one. This can't just be me. I can't be doing this. Like, all I ever wanted was to love children and make them feel safe, even if it was just a little bit of time before they were reunified. But I decided in that moment that, uh, when things calmed down, I would do something to find other families so that nobody else felt this way. And then I just kept getting this, like, I call it God, but anybody, like, I just kept feeling like he just kept like knocking me, going, "You got to do it, you got to do it," and I kept feeling like, I got enough on my plate here. Like, I'm already. Don't you see what I'm dealing with, and you want me to do this thing, right? Like it was insane, right? So, but it wouldn't stop, so I did. And I opened Attached Families and created the nonprofit, and my goal was, if I even find one other person out there in this world that's dealing with this that I can say, listen, you are not the only one. It's not you. There's something that's going on here that we don't know about really yet, and they're not telling us. Like that's like I want to validate you that this is happening, and so if you're crying in your bedroom too, you can stop crying. So I did it, and I blinked my eyes, and I had like 300 and something people. And then and I mean like in the first like 2 weeks. And I was like, whoa. I was
Wow.
like it blew my mind. And now we're at like 14,000, and we're 5 years in. There are a lot of us, and they're not alone. And um not only has it helped me personally to feel so validated that not that I wasn't crazy. I was loving my children the best I could. I was doing everything to make them feel safe. I was also giving support to all of these people that were also literally completely isolated because your friends don't believe you. It can be that bad. Family doesn't believe you. It can be that bad because everyone just like likes to end it with, they're just kids. How bad could it be?
Katie Rose has learned a lot along her path with her children. She's found that there are treatments that can help children with severe behaviors, but often they're not accessible to everyone. Katie believes there's hope for children like hers, but her dream would take an investment that she has yet to find anyone willing or able to make.
I tell everybody, I have a dream of what it all looks like. If somebody give me $1 billion, and I'll show you how quick I can work to help heal these kids, and that would be complex trauma, residential centers built all over the country. And that would include neurofeedback, biofeedback, somatic movement therapy, brain reorganization exercises, trauma yoga, like the full, like I truly believe, and like immersed in it. I truly believe that we could find healing for our children in a way that we are just not seeing. I believe that we would reduce dropout rates. I believe we would reduce the amount of times children are moved. I mean, you hear moved 27 times in foster care. No one's moving that kid 27 times because they're just so damn cute. That poor kid is the reason that poor kid is being moved. And people just don't look for far enough down that thought process to understand that. So I think we would reduce the amount of moves. I think that we would reduce the amount of dropout rates. We would reduce the amount of self-medicating and drug abuse as they got older. We would reduce homelessness. We would reduce crime. We would reduce the jail population. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We would reduce the trauma inflicted on other citizens in society because of that crime. So, and then watch my idea work, and then we could build the same type of centers for adults with PTSD, with the veterans who come back, and let them go stay there for a few weeks and do all these things and help them deal with the trauma of coming back from war, whether they're classified as PTSD or not. You asked, is there something? For me, I just had to keep changing. And in the and in the, but I still have hope. I don't think I'll ever give it up. Um, but I do believe that had a place like I just detailed to you existed, it would have made for a much better life, a much more healed life for my children. Or if I was told the truth from the beginning, I mean, I lost years when they were still younger, when they were 7 and 9. I didn't even get a like legit diagnosis until after they were adopted, and I finally decided to cut free from the counselors that were linked to CPS and just take them somewhere completely separate for a full evaluation. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, that doesn't say anything about love them more and make them feel safe. Like, so I mean, I like 2-3 years we lost before I even got to start researching what all this stuff was and how this needed to be parented. And so I really do feel that math classes need to be changed. I'm not saying terrify anyone. I mean, but yes, why would you want anyone to go into it that didn't have their eyes open? Why would you what you're always recruiting for new foster parents because you're doing so many one and dones, right? And they're like, get this kid out of my house and close me down. I'm not taking anybody else, right? So how about we be a little bit honest? Number one, we train them for the signs of what to look for. We support the ever loving heck out of them through it. We offer the resources. We create the resources to offer them. And we literally support them and hold their hand through it instead of just pretending it doesn't exist, trying to keep this big secret and just moving the kid on to the next house. I think that we are doing more of a disservice to children and families everywhere by doing it that way. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every person in the world can be healed. So I'm not saying it'll be zero crime, it'll be zero drugs, it'll be zero dropout from high school. But I do believe that if we did it, we'd have a huge percentage that, even if they didn't heal fully, would not become drug addicts, criminals, homeless people.
And that's probably what's part of the tricky part of it, is that, oh, you can invest the money and when you're trying to sell it, you want to sell it as, yes, this will help a lot of people. And people aren't necessarily comfortable with that picture of that idea, the truth that there are some people that will take to it and will have a really better life, and some people just won't.
At the end of the day, there's nothing that's 100%. I know there are things that work. I know that there are people who had a lot more money than me that were able to do a lot of these things while the children were younger, and they saw successes. It was piecemealed from all over the place, but and my dream is to just kind of have it all together and immersed and like full immersion.
And I feel like one thing that I feel like I hear from you and from this whole community you've built is that the parents who are in there, who are trying these things, it's like each kid is unique. So you can't go to a parent and say, okay, this is what you're supposed to do.
The one thing that does fit all is talk therapy doesn't heal our kids.
Fair enough.
and just loving them doesn't heal them either. With these centers that are my dream, that is an like immersion into all of the things. And then also I in my head, there's a basketball center on site, and soccer and baseball, and like dance, because movement really matters. So and these kids, they also need to feel busy all the time, and if things just feel calm and happy and peaceful, they get very uncomfortable, the way we who may have grown up more neurotypically are uncomfortable if it's chaotic. They are uncomfortable if it's not chaos. So they wind up creating the chaos to make themselves feel comfortable. It's just this weird thing that the brain does. So that's why I say in the centers, like, no, neurofeedback alone is not going to help him. Biofeedback alone is not going to help him. Yoga, trauma yoga is not going to. But like, let's do it all, and then have sports and dance. And right now, if you send your kid to a psychiatric residential treatment facility, they are given a day room where they watch TV and movies or play video games all day long, and they get 30 minutes of talk therapy a week.
Right now, for us, like everyday people who are finding this out and want to be allies, is there any way, like you say, we need this change? How do we do this change? I mean, is it some way we vote, or we fund, or or support some organization who's trying?
Well,
What do we do?
Support attached families, because we're trying.
Okay.
And anyone that wants to help us, we are constantly doing letter writing campaigns, meeting with our senators, meeting with our congressmen. I've met with multiple heads of child welfare advocacy of different states. So people who wanna help, follow attached families, donate to attached families, send a contact, go to attachedfamilies.com and click the contact form and say you want to help, and I'll get you on the list to join the letter writing and phone call campaigns, things like that. These families that we're supporting need every minute of support that we offer them, every resource. All of their money is going, I mean, our children are beyond destructive. So you're always paying thousands of dollars to fix something or to repay something that they stole or things like that. These are just part of their behaviors from their trauma. And so our families are already, for the most part, broke. So what happens is, they're trying to pay for all these different out-of-pocket therapies, so they can't afford the educational advocate. So we're happy to give that to them for free. They can't afford someone to speak up for them at the child and family team meeting. So we're happy to offer them an advocate for free. So that's why, Attached Families doesn't charge anything for any of our services, because I know what it costs just to be a parent of these children. It's tenfold what it is to be parent of a neurotypical child. I mean, my one son, he broke my hot water heater and my HVAC system on purpose, and the hot water heater came through the ceiling all in 3 days' time. So I had to replace my living room ceiling, my hot water heater, and my HVAC system. Those are all really expensive things, and that was in the same week, and it was the week we got back from me taking him to this 3-week intensive attachment therapy program in Minnesota. Is that where the big mall is? I think Minnesota. That was almost $30,000 for the treatment and the trip, and then I came home and I had to replace the hot water heater, the HVAC system, and the hole in my living room ceiling. So when I say these kids are expensive, and he was mad at me for something. I don't know what he was trying to get back at me for that day, but that they have that's how their brains work. If you say no, they're gonna do something destructive, we're going to a rage, or so that's how their brains work right now. So they're very expensive. So I've lived the life. So I just know that my families are already bleeding money. They've gone through their 401ks. They've gone through their life savings. They're usually, if they're a two parent family, they're usually down to one income because someone has to always be around for this child that has such severe behaviors. So everything must, that was like my number one thing, like that, we're going to give them all the resources that out there in the world they'd have to pay for advocates to help them get an IEP and a this and a that costs, a ridiculous amount of money. And I just didn't want our families to ever have to do that. And there's nothing like having an advocate that actually knows what you're living with versus just hiring an educational advocate that probably never heard of reactive attachment disorder or complex trauma. So, our mission is to keep doing what we're doing and for it to always be free to our family.
Not being able to change the system fully has not stopped Katie Rose from doing her best to provide support to other families with adopted children who have difficult diagnoses.
Attached families has helped and is helping thousands of people cope, have a safe space to speak freely, have a safe space to call 24 hours a day just to have someone to talk to if needed. So we do like online support groups, plus we have our 24-hour call-in line, plus at any point in time someone can like jump on and ask for a live Zoom support group. Plus we do in-person support groups, and we coordinate with a person that puts together retreats for families like ours. And we have a mentorship program. We have an advocacy group where you will advocate for you for IEPs and 504s at the school or with the doctors and social workers and police if necessary. And all of our resources and services are 100% free. This is what I tell so many people. When I say so many people, my families, that's what I call all of our members that are attached families. I tell my families that everything that I ever found that worked for a little bit. So I had to keep changing. I've changed my parenting style 20 something times and then like rotated back through, like therapeutic parenting is definitely probably the best way to go. But honestly, human beings cannot be in therapeutic parenting mode 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of their lives. It's not sustainable. Neurofeedback, I believe in. I think if it was affordable, and that we could, I did it for my two sons for a little over a year, and they each went twice a week, but it was $400 times two for over a year. And so I think that personally, I really believe that if they had gotten it maybe 3 to 5 times a week for a couple of years, it would have made a big difference. But I couldn't afford what I was already doing. I do not think that talk therapy is the right approach until their brains are mature enough and ready to do it. Otherwise, it's really just a waste of everybody's time, but we have no choice because it's really the only option. So the problem isn't us. The problem is not the right options available. love adoption. I love foster care. And I love children in general. So I don't want to, I want to make people aware. I want to shed a light. But I don't want to be an alarm that tells everyone to tell everyone they know not to do it.
Well, I mean, at least there's people out there like you who are trying to provide for families, which you didn't have, and now families potentially can at least have you, and hopefully with your advocacy, maybe more.
Maybe more. Every year we add new programs, which makes me happy. And and we keep growing. And now I have a ton of amazing volunteers that help me and that I get to delegate things to and that man the phone line. And it used to just be my cell phone number 24. And then we grew, like I said, to 14,000. And I said, I can't be my cell phone anymore. But yeah, no, and that's something I hear a lot. And if anybody goes and like reads some of our reviews, it's something that's said a lot. Like they don't know what they would have done if they didn't have attached families supporting them, or they wish they had found us so much sooner, or people who have their children are already grown but follow attached families publicly will say things like, oh my God, my life would have been so much different had I had a resource like attached families when I was going through it. So that is a source of pride and joy for me. Just knowing that this little dream that I had when I was crying in the corner of my bedroom one night, that there had to be someone else out there that like me, that I just couldn't possibly be the only one, that, and I would find them so I could tell them they weren't alone. And yes, I was right. There was definitely other people out there that were living just like me in isolation and desperation. And it's nice to find your tribe. It's nice to talk to people who really actually get it. It might not change what's going on inside your house, but it does make all the difference in what's going on inside your head and your heart.
For adoptive parents, the phrase love is not enough feels accurate to helping our adopted kids face the life they've been dealt. Katie Rose is doing her best to support families facing situations that feel impossible to navigate, and she isn't stopping anytime soon. If you'd like to learn more about attached families or support Katie Rose's work, look for the links on my website, adoptionuncovered.com. And thank you.